How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday.
I mean, we got to take what we can get. This is a great way to end my Monday, so I appreciate you taking the time.
Oh, always for you, Dr. Dittmar.
Please don't call me Dr. Dittmar.
No, after all that controversy around
Sure.
Dr. Jill Biden, I am calling you Dr.
All
Dittmar.
right. I'll take it in. I'll take it in. So I'll just call you President Gholar. We'll just use
Fair.
all the titles. Um, I should, for folks, and I know folks will trickle in and we'll also share this around, share your wisdom and your expertise afterwards. But just to fill everybody in, so I'm Kelly Dittmar. I'm the Director of Research at the Center for American Women in Politics and professor at Rutgers Camden as well. And I am here with Ashanti Gholar, the President of Emerge America. Also a nationally recognized political strategist and founder and host of the Brown Girls Guide to Politics, which I saw your award-winning podcast. So that's great.
Thank you.
Congratulations. And I figured for folks, just to give them, if they don't already know Emerge, could you give the sort of, what Emerge is and does, the work that you all do?
Yes, absolutely. So, hi everyone. Again, I'm Ashanti Gholar. I'm the president of Emerge, and we focus on recruiting and training Democratic women to run for office. We have affiliates in 27 states. I saw our executive director of Emerge Nevada, my home state, join. Hi, my Dana. And we just love what we do. We started in 2002 with our first affiliate, Emerge California. The national organization was established in 2005, and we currently have over 1,000 alums who are serving in elected office.
That's awesome. Well, and so I asked you to join us because of that expertise in the work that you do. Last week, CAWP put out a report on women in the 2020 legislative election. So obviously there's a big story in the presidential election. And we know that the gender story, if you will, got probably most attention among women voters for the presidential election, and of course our first woman vice president. But there were a lot of stories going on below the presidential level. So we only cover congressional and state legislative, but obviously the work that Emerge is doing goes beyond that to local level offices as well, and the success of women there. So our report is titled Measuring Success Women in 2020 Legislative Elections. So we thought it would be a good opportunity to talk with the folks who are contributing to that success, experts and practitioners who are really part of the story, to get your take on it instead of my 16,000 words or whatever it ended up being, some crazy amount.
But I love whenever you have reports that come out because they're just so good. It's so informative, and it really shows how women are moving the needle in politics.
Absolutely. I mean, it's important. We always feel like it's important to put it down as a sort of archival. This is what happened, and folks can then go back to that and say, okay, this is what happened in 2018. Now this is what happened in 2020 for women, and look at it with that gender and sort of intersectional lens. So let's go back a little to 2018, because I think part of my argument in the report is you can't really understand 2020 without understanding what happened in 2018 for women. So
Right.
obviously 2018 was a record year for women, particularly and really entirely for Democratic women. And so coming off of such a successful year, can you talk about what your expectations were going into 2020 for women in particular, and then how you approached the work at Emerge to ensure that there was continued success after a year that folks were talking about the pink wave and the surge of women
Yeah.
and all of that?
Yeah. So we know everyone called 2018 the year of the woman, another year of the woman, the pink wave. And I always say I don't use the word wave because this really is a movement. It's a movement that Emerge has been involved in since 2002. And 2018 did not surprise me because we saw what happened after 2016 at Emerge. You know, the day after Secretary Clinton didn't break that highest glass ceiling, we were flooded with emails, phone calls, DMs from women who wanted to run for office because they said, okay, if not Secretary Clinton, then who? than me. It has to be me. I have to be the one to step up and make these changes in my community. And we saw that in 2017 start actually for us at Emerge, particularly with the Virginia House of Delegates. We had over a dozen Emerge alums who flipped seats from white Republican men to diverse Democratic women. And we knew that was possible because the districts that they ran in, they voted for Secretary Clinton. So there was no reason that the voters in these districts wouldn't vote for Democratic women. And then we saw 2018 happen more with the congressional level, and we saw 5 of our Emerge alums who got elected to Congress, including Deb Haaland, who's now Secretary Haaland, who joined Sharice Davis to be one of the first Indigenous women in Congress. We saw Dr. Kim Schreier get elected, and she was important because they're constantly debating women's health care in Congress, and we didn't even have a woman doctor. So now we do. We have someone who knows what she's talking about. And we also saw Lucy McBath, who got involved as a mother of the movement because of what happened with her son Jordan and gun violence. So we saw all these women from different walks of life get elected to public office. And with 2020, I look at how those women in 2017 and 2018 were inspired by Secretary Clinton, and how the women of 2017 and 2018 inspired the women of 2020.
Absolutely.
That's what we saw at Emerge, because they were seeing women who look like them. Like,
Right.
Oh my gosh, you're a mom who drives a minivan and you're in Congress? I can do that too. Oh my gosh, you're a nurse and you've dealt with housing insecurity. I have as well. Oh my goodness, you are worried about the economy. You've had to deal with bankruptcy. I also lost my house during the financial crisis.
Yep.
We're seeing these women who are inspired by other women. And that's the way that it should be. And that's what we're seeing at Emerge. People ask all the time, oh, has the energy stopped? No, we're still in business because the energy hasn't stopped. It's increased. And we know that's what we're just going to continue to see, because this is our moment. We know that it was 100 years technically for white women when it came to voting, but it wasn't 100 years when it came to Black, brown, and Indigenous women. But even if we look at the whole spectrum, all women are behind. So we're still finally catching up during this time. So it's not a wave. This is what is meant to be. It is us taking our rightful seats at the political table.
Absolutely. I mean, this is the point we try to make about how you measure success, right? So surely, yeah, record numbers of women ran for office, record numbers of women won in both 2018 and 2020. Of course, the partisan story was very different, which is one of the big points we, do make in the report. But it was continued progress nonetheless. But success also comes in having these women in positions of power, having women in the cabinet. It's not only in numbers alone. So I'm curious, when you think about measuring success for women in politics, right? So what are the things you think about and how you measure that success overall, but also obviously for Emerge, and how you measure success for the organization and the work that you're doing?
Yeah, I always just go back to the basics, which is there's 520,000 elected offices in this country. Women were 51% of the population. We do not occupy 51% of those offices at all. And we talk a lot about parity, 50% men, 50% women, which is what a lot of people are going for. But we also have to realize when we have parity, that doesn't mean that we're going to have parity across all levels of elected office. That doesn't mean we're going to have parity in every state. That doesn't mean parity for Black, brown, and Indigenous women of color. It doesn't mean parity for LGBTQ women. So for me, this work really has no end date. We still have so far to go when it comes to women's representation, but also the representation of women who have other intersectional identities as well. So at Emerge, we are really focusing on the new American majority: Black, brown, and Indigenous women, women of color, LGBTQ women, young women, unmarried women. We know that they were the voters who catapulted a lot of those Democratic victories, but they were also some of the most exciting candidates on the ballot. And that is just so key to see women saying, I just don't have to be the voter. I can be the candidate too. So for me, that's a key part of measuring the success is not just having women, but we're having women from all walks of life. And that's how we look at it with Emerge. We created our Emerge 2035 goals. We celebrated 15 years in 2020. We went ahead and planned for the next 15 years. And that includes focusing on the new American majority, but also making sure that our alums are lifting as they climb. With 1,000 alums in elected office, we have so many who are running for higher office. And us being extremely strategic with having them reach back and recruit an Emerge alum to run for their seat. Because if they don't, we lose progress. Because we know a man is just going to jump to run for that seat.
Absolutely.
So we got to make sure we're still holding it down with another woman. And then we talk about repowering political structures with state houses. I love when CAWP talks about state houses because we have so many Emerge alums who have helped make those gains. It was Emerge alums who helped Nevada, Colorado, and New Mexico become majority women. If you look at the top 10 states that have the most women in state houses, Emerge has affiliates in 9 out of 10 of those states. So with us being extremely strategic with the recruitment, but that's also at all levels of office. And like Dr. Dittmar, we also got to remember these boards, commissions, and other appointments are so key. So that's another focus for us when we're looking at success is it just doesn't have to be these elected offices. Are these women heading these boards, heading these commissions, especially when we're talking about what's happening with criminal justice reform and people are like, oh, this commission is looking at it. Who's on the commission?
On the commission.
That's going to make a difference.
And who's also working on campaigns and heading the parties? I mean,
like, yeah,
it's this broader spectrum of political actors, and it's not one or the other. I mean, I think often those of us who are in this field that we're asked to choose, like, well, where would you like the women? You know, would you like them
everywhere?
In office? And it's like, yeah, no, we'd like them everywhere, and that they play a role everywhere. In other words, so women in office who are legislators are going to be dealing with certain things in their perspective and experience and the full diversity that you're talking about. Because I agree, that's the move, right? We need not just women in office, you need a full sort of range of perspective and lived experiences. Just as we say that gender experience is important, we know that that is layered upon all sorts of identities. But that has to translate to the folks doing the recruiting. It has to translate to the folks doing this strategic work. One of my own sort of areas of interest is how you make gender and intersectional progress through campaign strategies.
Yes.
So that we don't run in ways that are just the same way that the guys have done it. So I just have to prove I'm tough and strong and sort of meet those masculine credentials to run for office. And I think the women, especially the women you're talking about, a lot of the Emerge candidates do that, right? They challenge that. They, look at the way that gender and their, many identities are assets to their candidacy instead of hurdles to overcome. And I wonder if that's something do you guys talk about that in Emerge training? Is that something you encourage? Because I do think it has these long-term benefits to disrupting these institutions a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. We say you have to be your authentic self. And we know just as women, we show up in different ways. So if you do not feel comfortable in the skirt and the heels, don't wear the skirt and the heels. Yeah. Like, feel what you're comfortable in. Like, I wear my hair in Senegalese twist. For a lot of people, they would think this isn't a professional hairstyle, but this is me as my authentic self. And we see more and more Black women who are wearing their natural hair. Yeah. So it is something that we talk about, not only with how you're showing up, telling your story, being authentic in that way, but who you are. Because people, they definitely feel so many of their elected officials have failed them, and they want to be able to relate to the people that are running, not only their story, but who they are as well. So it's something that we absolutely talk about, because it very much used to be, if you want to run for office as a woman and win, you have to appease the men. Right. And that's not true. Right. Y'all, I even get emails from men who tell me Emerge is doing it all wrong. that we need to be teaching women to run in a way that appeases men,
right,
so that they will vote for the women.
right.
And I'm just like, how did you get my email? Why are you in my inbox? Why did you choose violence today with sending me that email? It
Right.
still absolutely happens. And I did a conversation with Stephanie Shriak, who just left Emily's list. And she was even talking about when she came to DC, she looked like a man with the suit, with the haircut. And all of that is being challenged. And I definitely think we've seen it be challenged over the past 5 years. But
Yep.
that's with the women who have ascended into leadership. And they do things such as having their child with them on the dais, making sure that there's breastfeeding rooms in the Capitol, having their kids with them at the fundraising event. When other women saw that, that is so when we started seeing all of those norms being challenged. We had candidates coming out talking about Me Too, giving other women, you know, the freedom that they finally felt to talk about it, because here's this woman in power who is talking about it. So all of those norms have completely been changed, completely been challenged by those women who just stepped up and said, no, I'm not playing by your game, Mr. Man. And it's fine if you don't want to vote for me, because there are other people that will vote for me. And that's what I tell our candidates, our alums all the time, is just because someone says that you're not their candidate, that doesn't mean you're not someone else's candidate. So don't let those people bring you down, especially men who want for you to campaign and govern in a way that appeases them.
Yeah. I mean, so thank you for doing that work. And I think that's the way you get to, again, that other progress, because if women are forced to adapt to an institution and that was not built for them, right, has not empowered them, has in fact excluded and marginalized them, then we won't see that real progress. Whereas if you disrupt that institution, you challenge the rules, and as we've seen, you're successful. It's not only I think obviously you've noted the inspiration, but it also simply changes the rules. Even the dude strategists are going like, oh, well, she went. I guess there are, over 50% of the Democratic electorate are women, and we should value those experiences. And I just think we often value. I use this as an example. Sometimes we value being a veteran, right? Or you value being a doctor, or whatever these sort of lived experiences are, and how that's going to inform your work in government. Well, women and Black women and Latinas and Native women have unique lived experiences as well, and we should value that equally, at least, in my opinion. It's exciting when women can talk about that,
It is, and you really hit it on the head. When I'm talking to so many women who do want to run for office or who are running for office, they talk about how hard it is. And I'm like, yes, it is hard. I'm not here to say that it's a breeze. If it was super easy, a merge wouldn't exist. But we have to realize, as women, as people of color, we're playing a system that wasn't built for us. This was built for straight white men. So every time you and I walk into a room, we're proof that we disrupted that system. And then you and I sit at the table and we tell them, and we're here to disrupt it a little bit more. And that is terrifying to so many people. It's intimidating because they benefit from the status quo. And a lot of this racism, sexism, misogyny that women face, I say it is another tactic to keep us from running for office and from holding power. Because when we do, we just change the entire political game.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my God, time flies so fast. Okay, so one of the things I wanted to at least leave a second for is the sort of look ahead. So, success in 2018, more success for Democratic women in 2020, though a little bit of a slowdown in terms of the rate of progress, but we understand the partisan dynamics.
I wasn't surprised that Republican women won a lot of those seats back. I mean, they were like, oh my gosh, they voted for a Democratic woman in a Republican district. We're going to run a Republican woman in this Republican district. That's how politics works. I wasn't surprised.
And I was talking to Julie Conway the other day, and like, those will be the seats that are vulnerable again and are opportunities, thinking about strategic recruitment. Exactly. every election. So what is your, not necessarily prognostication, but what's the plan? What are you looking for? What are the stories you're watching and work you're doing as we look to both 2021, obviously, and 2022?
What we're really looking at is we're entering the second year of the pandemic, and we're seeing how women who are in elected office are leading. You know, there's Rachel Rollins, who the minute we said, okay, we're just going to shelter in place, stay at home, she reminded people that home isn't the safest place for everyone, especially victims of domestic violence. So she made sure that those services were not cut, they were expanded. I think about Danica Rome, the first open transgender woman to serve in a state legislature. She made sure that kids were getting healthy meals. I think about Leslie Herod in Colorado and what she did around debt collection and making sure that people weren't going to jail, you know, for debt in the middle of a pandemic when they weren't able to work. So we're really looking at how women are truly interweaving what this pandemic has done to our country into not only how they're legislating, but how they're running campaigns. And we talk so much about the unfortunate number of women who lost jobs during this time. We know it's majority women. We also saw that impact women running for office. Some could collect their signatures, so they didn't make the ballot. Many decided not to run because they had to focus on homeschooling their children. Other women became the primary breadwinners because family members lost their job. So we had expected to have over 1,000 women running in 2020, and we didn't, because they had to choose, you know, their families and taking care of elderly parents. So I think that's also going to be something we're going to see a lot, is women talking about how this pandemic has impacted women. But we know when we say that, we're talking about how it's also impacted families and communities as well. So I definitely think that's something that we're watching for. It's something that we're seeing at Emerge. And we're absolutely going to start seeing the new American majority taking more seats at the table. I especially think about all these young women activists who organized the marches last summer. I'd say all the time, like, activists make the best candidates.
Absolutely.
They are just, look at Congresswoman Cori Bush.
Cori Bush, right.
Activist, now member of Congress. So that's what we are going to be seeing over the next few years. And it just excites me so much to see women from all walks of life, different backgrounds, races, ethnicities, just running for office and winning and giving us a truly inclusive democracy.
And there's such a great opportunity for that translation of activism and advocacy to candidacy. It's one of the things that I think, you know, we can't pinpoint it exactly, but certainly helped that surge, if you will, in 2018, that it was not women who, certainly some women who maybe might not have been very active and became more politically active, but more often it was the women who have been on the front lines, have been politically active, but were convinced that having that seat at the table as an elected official, or even as a candidate, being on those debate stages would push the conversation that that was the step they needed to take in order to really make more of an impact than they already had. So that's such a promising avenue if we continue to see people see that value of translating.
Yes, and I think when they see the Cori Bushes of the world, the other members of the squad, even the woman who's on their local town council, you know, they're absolutely going to know that they can do it.
Awesome. Well, I don't want to take more of your time, but I do want to thank you. And I want to say to anybody watching to check out Emerge and the work that great work that they do. So at Emerge America, right? Is there sort of
at Emerge America on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook, and we also got a YouTube channel where you can go watch conversations with some amazing women in elected office. And we also got some training tips up there for those of you who want to run for office.
Perfect. Everybody's got a little homework. And if
Yes.
you want to read the CAWP report, you can find that at womenrun.rutgers.edu. And there's a report there both on 2020 and also a report on 2018 if you want to relive the success of 2018 as well.
I just have to thank you, Dr. Dittmar, for these reports. They are just so good. I truly read them and I enjoy reading them. And I love getting emails from you saying a new report is coming out. Because I'm like, yes, more information. Because it's just even.
And we'll have more. I should say, when you were talking about particularly COVID, we just funded some research from a group of awesome scholars, and included among there's all sorts of great stuff that we'll be sharing with you all, and we'll be meeting with you all.
Wait.
But in addition, among those, a great project from some of our colleagues looking at the effects of COVID on women's political participation and engagement. So we will be having more conversations, hopefully like this, but also offline, to make sure that we're translating all that research as well into practice, and that requires your support, and also, just working the best we can to also support the work that you do at Emerge. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Let's do this more often.
Yes, I say all the time, I'm a fangirl of yours. So I enjoyed this opportunity to talk to you, and just thank you for everything that you do.
Right back at you. We're going to make this a more regular occurrence, since in person is still, we're not sure we're going to do it this way. We're going to do it this way.
Love it.
Thank you, Ashanti.
Thank you. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.